We're rolling. Timer starts now. Mark. Hi, I'm Ford.
And I'm Sky. And these are not our real names. These are our superhero names, and with our powers combined, we formed the writing partnership L. Skyford. Welcome to Booklandia.
Today, we're going to review a book, most likely a romance. But before we get much further, did you know you can watch our faces do this episode by subscribing to us on Twitch at L. Skyford or YouTube at L.Skyford? You should really do it. We give good face.
And sometimes there's a dog bomb at Ford's house.
This is true. For our other socials, you can follow us on Twitter at SkyfordL, on Instagram at L.Skyford. And if you're interested in our book, blog, or even more book reviews, head over to our website, lskyford.com.
Lastly, this and every episode are chock full of oversharing and spoilers, and every episode is rated E for explicit. You have been warned.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
What a day. I mean, you've had what a day.
It's been a day. It has been, in fact, a day. That's all right. You gotta have one of those.
Absolutely. For me, so earlier this week, it was chilly enough that I took out my slippers. And then today, it's been 95 degrees. So I thought we were starting fall here in Southern California, but alas, it's not the case.
It's windy, but it's definitely not chilly. Not at all.
I mean, it's not windy up here in the near desert.
Ah, there you go. That's the big difference.
Swampy.
I'm sorry about that.
It's all right.
Well, today we are talking about Adriana Herrera's American Dreamer. But first, we're going to finish this catch up because we started.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll get... Yeah.
One day we'll do things in order and with great transitions. Or not ever and just do this.
This feels right.
Yeah. I mean, it's end of September. Like, school has started. It feels like things are just, like, powering on. And in no time, it's going to be the fucking holidays, and I'm just not emotionally prepared for that.
My neighbors decorated for Halloween. There's like a giant pumpkin situation that like is waving in the wind and scaring the neighborhood. Like, they're all into it. To be fair, these are the same neighbors.
Yeah.
These were the same neighbors that last year did these clear decals on their windows that looked like bloody handprints and bloody footprints. And they took them all off at the end of the season, except they forgot one. And so there was one bloody handprint on a window, and then they like put up their holiday display. So there were like icicles and snowmen and still one bloody handprint on one window.
That sounds like pandemic, I just have to have this to survive the pandemic.
Right. Maybe. It was hilarious to me how long the bloody handprints stayed in their window. Just that one.
I mean, look, we still have our Christmas lights up from last year. I just couldn't because they brought me joy into February, and by then I was exhausted again, and I couldn't take them down.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's how we are. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about Adriana Herrera's book, because speaking of things that bring joy, see, a transition. They do exist.
We did it, everyone! Celebrate!
So let's talk about Adriana Herrera's very first book. Firstly, before we get into the plot of the book, how massively impressive is it that American Dreamer singular is Adriana Herrera's first published book, her debut novel. And it came out in March of 2019, and it is September of 2021. And she has 8 books out.
7 or 8 books, yeah.
Including some holiday specials, and they're all exceptional. In case you guys have not read an Adriana Herrera, get at it, like now. I'm just fully blown away at the quantity of work she puts out, and
Yeah.
massive props on the editing process that might go into that many books in so short a time.
Yeah. I like my only criticism of this book, I only have like the one, and it's that the first two or three chapters are just expositionally clunky. And I'm like, oh, first book, and you got to just like get out all the who's and the where's and the what's, and that just being a little bit heavy, and then the rest of it being smooth. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'm fine with this.
it's pretty great. Okay,
Yeah,
so let's look at this cover for a second.
yeah, yeah.
So
Let's do it.
here is the Karina Press cover of this. And one of the reasons we're reading this particular series by Adriana Herrera is because the fourth one in this series is being re-released with a different cover. And then my
Well,
assumption is,
it's being re-released as a paperback for the first time.
there we go. And it is I assume that the rest are going to follow. And I have a comment about that because I've read that one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a publishing moment, but before we get to that, hold on. I digress. Okay, so this cover, in case you guys are not watching us but listening, is a picture of uh, um, a bearded person looking up at a blue sky. He's very serious, and he's wearing a blue t-shirt, and he's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be uh, Ernesto Vasquez, our main character, I assume, because this is definitely not Jude.
Yeah,
And and then it's just the title of the book. It's very simple.
yeah. It's pretty chill.
Um, so my comment that I was going to make earlier about um, American Sweethearts, which is the one that is being released in paperback, is that it is the
Book
fourth one.
4.
It's book 4 in the series, and it is the only one of the series where it's a man and a woman that are
Mm,
hooking up. In the other ones, it's two men. Not all of the characters are necessarily gay, but all of the other characters are hooking up with other men. And so
mm,
I hope this is just a coincidence, but I think it's a weird coincidence that they've decided to release the more hetero compliant one in
mm.
paperback out of all of them. And I wish they didn't and just started at the beginning because, I mean, like, yay that it's getting released in paperback, like that is very exciting in the first place. And she has other books that are in paperback that are not heteronormative at all. So she does get exposure in that way in the community. But I was like, really? The fourth one is the first one you're gonna put out and okay. So that's my gripe
Okay.
with publishers.
So, correction, I'm just gonna correct you
Right away.
immediately.
Go for it.
I did the Googling, and the others have been released in paperback.
Oh, I
Looks like,
see. And I just missed it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
understood.
So the Dreamer paperback came out March 30th. 2, which is American Fairy Tale, came out June 29th of this year. American Sweethearts, which is 4, comes out on the December 28th, and then 3 comes out next week, September 28th,
Oh,
in
okay.
paperback.
Well then,
With
yeah.
all and they all have new covers.
Oh, well then now I have to look up the new covers and I take it all back, I guess.
Look, hot takes.
That was
Poured some water on that.
thank you. I appreciate it. The
No, no.
the instant cool down was whew, yeah, that works out.
Yeah.
All right. Shall
Shall we
we?
tell the people what it's about?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So
Okay, great.
full disclosure, I wrote this. Apparently it is heavily laden with typos, so you're going to share
I'm
with us the typos.
I'm just gonna gently count how many spelling errors and grammatical errors I come across as I'm reading it in under 30 seconds because I need a challenge, apparently.
Uh, all right. All right. In that case, I'm going to count you in.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Nesto Vasquez comes to Ithaca, not spelled correctly, to grow his Afro-Caribbean fusion food truck business with tenacious, single-mindedness. Yet every time he talks to Jude, he wonders if there's more to life than, not the right then, just his unya. Jude has always kept himself at arm's length from his partners, having been hurt by his family's lack of love and support. Something's wrong there.
Yeah.
Now Nesto is asking him to open up, and it's so scary. But will they test each other's boundaries? Not spelled correctly. Will they find a way? Are we gonna edit this live?
Okay, so the only thing that really matters, other than me misspelling things, is having been hurt by his family's lack of love. That should be lack of love. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The rest we're just gonna send by the wayside of things I misspell while typing. And Google Sheets not having autocorrect built in. Hey, Google Sheets.
Yes.
Autocorrect. Okay, so I'm gonna just come on, Grammarly. Yes, pick it up. So I'm gonna hope that I'm correct on this. I think the original release date for this is March 4th, 2019.
It's what Goodreads has. Trust it's what Goodreads in all things.
Yeah, it's what good. Well, apparently not in the paperback release of the other ones or the new covers. So, don't
takes. Continue.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. It's the wine. It's the fact that for one of the very first ever times, I've actually gotten the wine promised by the Now with Wine sign on the beginning of our episode.
Excellent.
So
cheers.
Slightly, yes, indeed. Slightly more wine than before. Okay, let's get into it. So, so Nesto is one of 4 friends who are all from different Caribbean islands, and I have now read not just Nesto's story, but 3 of the 4 stories, and I intend to read the 4th one. And there is a holiday novella. So when we do holidays, I will do the holiday novella.
Great. Excellent. Yes.
But Nesto is my favorite so far.
Nice.
So just because he's the heart of this quartet of guys. So the 4 of them are from South Bronx. They grow up together. They're all from different Caribbean islands. And Nesto goes to culinary school and then opens a food truck. And the food is the fusion of the 4 islands. So Nesto is Dominican. Juan Pablo is partially Italian and partially also Dominican, I want to say. And then Patrice is Haitian and Camilo is from a Caribbean island. I can't remember right now because his story is the story I haven't read. Camilo's story is the story I haven't read yet. So we haven't dealt with his. Like he's mentioned, they all have a tattoo of their island, but I don't remember where he's from. So go look it up, you guys.
Nice
because there we go. I'm sorry, I'm terrible. Anyways, so Nesto uses the flavors of all of these different Caribbean islands to create his food, which by the way sounds delicious. And he immediately tells me that he makes a pescatarian version. Oh, Jamaican. That's what it is. Camilo is Jamaican. Because there's jerk fish and jerk chicken. And So he immediately tells you that he can make it vegan and he can make it pescat. Like he's a man after my own heart. I was like, please feed me wherever your truck is. I will follow because deliciousness. And he's single-minded about what he wants to do. Jude, on the other hand, firstly, Jude is a librarian, like a properly librarian with a bow tie and everything. I was immediately like, yes, please and thank you. Tell me more about this sexy librarian trope, which I feel like is the only true trope in this book, is sexy librarian.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, hi, Beckett. You come to talk about this?
There is a dog bomb at Ford's house.
It's finally happening. She's come to tell me that it's hot outside, which I've already alerted the media. Yeah.
Yes.
So
So, okay,
please
let me
ignore
ask
the
this
freight
question.
train.
Okay,
Okay.
let me ask this question because I've been heading here for like 5.5 minutes now, so I promise I've arrived
Okay.
at Jude. So Jude's family. Oh, I see how I also have typos in my own questions. So sorry, people. Jude's family asks. So what's happening with Jude is content warning tragic. Um, Jude's sister. Jude is they never say that he's Mormon, but it's sort of alluded to that he's Mormon
Mm.
or something really similar.
Oh, you thought Mormon.
What did you think?
Interesting. Like hardcore Christian.
Well, it's
Like
because
hardcore.
I
Like
mean,
deep.
he goes on a mission.
Southern. Yeah.
So he goes on a
Yeah, he
mission.
goes on mission.
There's a lot of religion and a lot of rules, and
Mm.
they don't tell other people about their religion. And so, and maybe it's because I knew a lot of Mormons, and so I
Hmm.
associated it with the Mormon religion. It is never mentioned
Sure.
what Christian faith
Yeah.
his family is, but it is very
No.
strict and it's very it's not accepting of his
Yeah.
lifestyle and his life. And so, and then we find out that his sister, Mary, who basically raised him from when he was a child, is dying of cancer. And she asks him to repent for
Yep.
her because she is too worried about her soul when she
Yep.
goes because she loves him too much. And so she's
Mm-hmm.
worried that her love for him is going to be stronger than her faith. And this is not a question. This is just a comment, but I just want to throw out the fact
Oh
that
yeah.
this is emotional abuse at its finest.
Say it louder for the people in the back pews.
Yeah, you cannot guilt someone into not being their authentic self.
You can. You can
Well,
do that, but
you
it
should
doesn't
not.
make it
Yeah.
exactly. It doesn't make it not emotional abuse. So I'm going to say right here, everyone, content warning. We're going to talk about toxic Christianity because I have experienced this firsthand and I'm going to get perhaps a little salty about it because this is exactly, well, not exactly, 95% of what happened to me. So as a child, I watched my father marry a woman and they converted, or he converted into their sect of religion. They're Pentecostal and Southern Pentecostal, so it gets even more extreme. So we don't have the like no snakes, no flags, but like speaking in tongues and going on missions and all this. Um, and my relationship with him went from the fact that we were equals and friends, even though I was his child, to him being more concerned about saving my soul than getting to know who I was as a person. And so, what that meant is that this religion came between us. And that's all that there was between us, because that's what the religion said is like, you're the father, you're the head of the household, you are responsible for the souls of all your children. And so like the way their Christianity was preached is it's about how many people you convert and how many, like, it's a numbers game. They gamified it. And the people you don't are directly, like, they directly affect if you're getting into fucking heaven. Like, it's so fucking manipulative. It makes me want to scream. And then they talk out of both sides of their mouth, because on Sunday morning at church, it's all about God's unending universal love. He loves all of his creations. But at Wednesday night church, it's accept Jews and homosexuals. So it, like, the fact that they can just lie and not realize they're lying is a lot. And I'm just going to maybe take a step down back off of this, out of this pulpit of hate.
No, sorry. I know I brought it upon us, but I read that,
No, I'm
and
glad.
that was the only, like, when Mary uh tricks Jude into meeting with the
Mhm.
pastor, and then she's like, "But
Mhm.
I'm dying. Won't you do it because I'm dying?" That was the moment I screamed at the
Yes.
audiobook because
Yeah.
it was, I mean, so I keep coming back to the fact that unconditional love, which is somewhat implied, right, in religious
Mhm.
teachings, literally means love without conditions. And then you
Yeah.
immediately put conditions on it. And it's just the most
Yeah.
infuriating thing on the planet to be like, I love you unconditionally, except here are all the rules. And if you don't
Mhm.
follow these rules, I no longer love you. And that's crazy to me on a level I don't
Mhm.
even have words for. So
Yep.
don't be like that.
Don't be like that.
Don't be like that.
The number of times I would pause reading the book and just have like internal arguments with the religious side of my family about shit, about a bunch of stuff. Like, it brought up so much of that anxiety that I was like, oh, this is going to be a trigger warning. This is going to be a content warning for people if I am feeling this way. So it framed the toxicity of Christianity in such a great way. I mean, not great, but in a very clear way that I really appreciated this book for like I finally felt like my one of my issues was seen. I haven't really felt toxic Christianity in a book before, in a romance book before. So it was really great and tough and a lot, but still really
Well,
good.
right. Shout out for bringing it to the forefront, and thank you for dealing,
Mm-hmm.
like, thank you for putting out an issue, a serious issue that should be
Yes,
addressed in romance
absolutely.
and in gay romance. And the fact that
Mm-hmm.
Jude doesn't Jude doesn't have an issue with religion. Jude has an
Yeah.
issue with the particular brand of bullshit that was fed to him. And I really appreciated that too,
Yep.
because there's like one sentence that he says where he's like, I still believe, but I know
Mm-hmm.
that my belief is not based in the same teachings as what I was brought up on as a child. But that
Yeah.
doesn't discredit how much I believe in a higher being. And that,
Yeah.
like, that's a really valid conversation as well.
Right. It's really interesting because the book never shows him acting as you expect a person of faith to act. Like, he's never prays over a meal. He never goes to church or what have you. He never talks about God except in the difficult conversations that he has with his family. So it's a very interesting, I think, commentary on the difference between faith, like the levels of faith, internal versus external faith. So yeah.
Definitely. Um,
Yeah.
okay. This is a question that is,
I
yeah.
so sorry. I'm surprised that I answered that. I went on that question did not go on for another 20 minutes. I'm
Not
really
yet,
surprised.
not
That's all.
yet.
Okay.
Just you wait. We're headed there. I feel like. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
um, both Nesto and Jude, one of the other reasons I really like this book is because both Nesto and Jude are really good at identifying when they've screwed up and the other person is upset with them. And
Mhm.
they are also very good at being like, this is how I screwed up and this is how I make it better. And it is a legitimate, like, make it better. It's not I screwed up, here is a balloon or a cake. Like, it's not performative.
Or a
Like, they,
grand gesture.
right. It's
Yeah.
not performative. They are genuinely working on themselves, which is
Mhm.
very impressive. I'm really impressed at their honesty and their ability um, to be vulnerable to each other and to know that that is what the other person is seeking. My question here is, why aren't more romance novels featuring grown ass adults that know how to communicate with each other? Because
Mm.
right, that's what this was. These are two
Mhm.
fully grown, fully emotionally matured adults who are still working on themselves even though they are no
Mhm.
longer behaving like teenagers. And so when they apologize and when they make choices to grow together, they're very legitimate choices, but it's so infrequent. Like every time I notice, I'm like, grown
Mhm.
adults having an adult relationship. What? So why
I
do you think
think
it's not prevalent?
I think it's a trend that is changing. Um, and I think it's also based on writer. This feels like a very specific writer preference. For some, they really like emotional internal struggle between their characters rather than external struggle, which is what this book focused on. The success of their businesses and their projects, and how racist that one person in town is going to be, and yeah. So I think it's starting to shift, but I know that every time we read one of these, you call it out. You're like, real adult human beings who've been
As
to
a
therapy.
Right, as opposed to like 30-year-olds that are
Yeah.
behaving like they're teenagers, which and I
Yeah.
understand that it's easier to connect with a simple emotion than it is to connect
Mm-hmm.
with a complex emotion. And so if someone comes to romance for the like the easy, lighthearted
Mm-hmm.
stuff, then you don't really want to
Yeah.
get into it. But so having read 3 out of the 4.5 of these books, they are all really complicated grown-ups. And I love
Yeah.
every second. Like they're emotionally available and they are willing to say things like this was not okay and I did wrong, and it isn't in the last 95% of the book. Like it's not in the 95th percent
Yeah.
of the book, it's in the 40th
Yeah.
percent of the book, and then you watch them grow. um yeah, I just
I
really
think
liked that
there's
they were
also,
adults.
right. I think there's also to be said that there are 30-year-olds who don't have a good grasp on themselves.
Okay,
And
true
I
that.
think, writer experience could also be part of that. Like, when did they mature, or are they maturing and doing it through their writing? Like, there's a lot of I think outside the book aspects that go to writing a mature or not mature character. I really like it because it's oh, what's that term that just slipped my brain after the majority of this cider? Modeling. It's good modeling behavior. Like, here's how to communicate in a relationship in a healthy way.
Yes, I know. There's some stuff that I was like, can I read this out loud to a group full of adults so that you know the words to
Yeah.
use when you effed it up, but you don't want to like flip the table and walk away on your relationship? Because these right here
Mm-hmm.
are the words.
Very good words. Excellent words. Also, I'm just thinking about Jude's chair in his bedroom that's surrounded by piles of books, and that's my life, and I really resemble that remark.
I have to say, again, so far, every single one of them has a reading nook with a comfortable chair
Ah,
and an uncontrollable need to buy more books. So,
mm,
very relatable for me and,
excellent.
and you. Very relatable.
Yes, excellent. Good. All right. So I one of the other issues that got me stopping and having really mental fights with people that are not there, is the fact that one of Nesto's um, external issues that he's working with is this woman in town named Misty, who also works at the library, and library, she said drunkenly, and so works at the library, fucks with Jude and his budget for his project, but also like comes around and is totally racist to Nesto. And she's totally like, the immigrants are
Yeah,
here taking our jobs.
right. And we already
Full
have,
on pearl clutching.
you're
Yeah.
right. And she's like, we already have a Mexican food truck. And he's like, great, Mexico is not the same country
Yeah.
as the Caribbean islands. Thanks for double checking the map.
Good call on that. Like, like, I was just having so many fights about racism, and specifically racism in America, because I think that is a very specific kind of racism. And I don't have a question, but I just want to say that I appreciate this book for giving me Nesto's viewpoint into into his life and his situation, which I'm sure is pulled from Adriana Herrera's experience or her friends' experiences, because I, as a white person, need to hear those. We need, as white people, to hear more stories so that we can continue to be empathetic and proactive in making the world a better place for these people, instead of being the Misties of the world, the of this, this character Misty, and being heartless asshole.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely agree. I do like it's sort of double edged for me. Also, there's a lot more of the conversation about implicit bias and microaggressions
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
racism in academia in the third book. I'm
Oh.
pushing like the entire series, you guys. So in American Love
How are we going to
Story,
be able to do a full series of episodes if you're talking about them right now?
I know, I'm sorry.
I'm just
In the
kidding.
third one, they unpack it even further. And one of the things that comes up in that book, and I actually thought about it in this one as well, is that Adriana Herrera is doing a lot of emotional labor for all of us, right?
Yeah.
She's putting so
Yes.
much race education and exposure to
Mm-hmm.
what it's like to be black and brown in the US for us. And so
Mm-hmm.
thank you to her for spending the time
Mm-hmm.
and really putting it on the page so that so that we as white people can read that and empathize with it and hopefully connect in a way that makes us really check what we say, what I say on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
and um and whether or not the way that I interact with people or judge people based on this or that is biased just because I'm a dumb
Yeah.
white person.
Yeah.
I am no Misty the racist, but well, at least I hope I'm not. I'm gonna take that back. You know what? By saying that, I
You're
feel
right.
like I've put myself in a category. But no, that so and this was really fascinating to me because at first I was like, hey, why is this person like this? Like, I need a reason, I need a rationale for why she is so callous with other people's livelihood because it just seemed
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
attention seeking and I almost needed an excuse for her behavior. And then it was like, no, like she's just a
Yeah.
racist. And that, like, there is no reason. That's what it is. But I
Well,
did catch
so
myself
there's. Go ahead. So sorry.
in like I caught myself in making excuses for her, right? Because it was like something must be
Sure.
wrong. And then it was like, no, fuck that noise.
Mm.
Like she is just racist. That is just who
Mm-hmm.
she is. We're just
Yeah.
gonna not invite her to any party ever.
Absolutely not. I did read in some attention seeking when her husband was like, "What the fuck are you doing, Misty?" And like basically like grabbed her by the ear and they left the party. And I was like, "Oh, she's in a loveless marriage. That sucks for her. Bye."
Yes, true. But like skin tight clothing
Mm-hmm.
that again, no judgment on people who wear skin tight clothing, but she does so for attention seeking reasons.
Yeah.
Um and
She controls people's budgets so she can
right.
have
And yeah,
control
Jude
and.
Jude is
Right.
blonde and white and she still gets on him and it's not because he's gay, it's because he has a good idea. Is he
Right.
blonde?
And
I feel like
she's.
he's blonde.
Yes. He was a Skarsgård in my head. He's
Ah,
like
ooh,
white
okay.
blonde in my head. Yeah, very
Yes.
Nordic.
Okay, very good.
So just quickly, you talked about implicit bias. If implicit bias is something you're interested in and you want to see if it comes out into in you personally, you can Google Project Implicit, which is done through Harvard. So it's implicit.harvard.edu, and it's a series of tests that you can take to see where your implicit biases lie. They have one about women in STEM. They have one about, I think there's one about shades of people of color, like shades of skin color, and like it's like they have one about Asian people and people with weapons. It's fantastic. They really cover the gamut of where biases can land, and I highly recommend Project Implicit.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like you like at least one of the things you said. It's people with weapons. Was I was like, oh, I do have one.
Right, right, and like, anywho, it's fantastic. I've taken a couple of them. I check in periodically on. I'm like, I wonder. Like, I'll read something and then somebody will correct me. I'm like, oh shit, I should check up on that. So, I recommend that as a self growth resource.
Very cool. Thank you. I did not know about this one.
Yeah, no, yes, good times.
Yes. Okay. I sort of already talked about this next bit because we started with this, but I just want to shout
Mm-hmm.
out
Mm-hmm.
the found family dynamic that is Nesto and Juan Pablo and Camilo and um Patrice, and then
Patrice.
we also get to meet Priscilla. She is not one of the four guys, obviously, but she is also with them. Yeah, there's a Priscilla.
Look, spoiler alerts apparently for the rest of the series.
No, she's I mean, we like yeah, when you read American Sweethearts, Priscilla is
Yeah,
the woman in it.
sure.
Um but
Sure.
and then
But
like
we also get Jude's best friend. What is her name?
Carmen and Ted.
Carmen. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Uh
Ted
yeah.
works with Patrice. And so like they
Mm-hmm.
all get really
Oh,
interconnected. Yeah. So you
nice.
get to meet
Cool.
Ted very briefly. I mean, you do in this book
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, it's just it made me so I have been to Ithaca and I agree with Nesta's original assessment of Ithaca. Maybe why I can't spell it. That like there's not a whole lot to do. And there's this one
Mhm.
main street, and then it's just quiet and suburban. And no judgment on that. It just, like, for a person who really likes New York, Ithaca was really low speed, like, really slowed it down. And so when I visited, because I had been living in New York and I came there and I was like, ooh, I don't think I can do this. So
Ha.
yeah. So I like really connected with that first chapter when he's like driving over and I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh yeah, that I lived that experience, not in a food truck, but I understand the experience
Mhm.
of like coming into this really suburban town." But by the end of the book, I was like, "I will come visit Ithaca
Seems
again."
cool.
Yeah, seems
Yeah.
like there's a great gay bar and there's a great community and it's really
Mhm.
diverse in both from an LGBT standpoint and from a racial diversity standpoint and from a food scene standpoint, and there's a river
Mhm.
and there's a wine festival. I was like, you're really selling me on it. Again, book 3 talks about winter in Ithaca and then I'm like, oh wait, hold on,
Mhm.
not so much.
Please, full stop. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Um, I'm somebody who came. My university was in a small town. Like the city doubled or quadrupled in size when school was in session. So when I was there, like my senior year, we finally got a movie theater. And now that I've been gone, they've got a bookstore, like a really cute independent bookstore. Like they've got all this really cute shit. And so Ithaca, I was just like transplanting a little bit from my small university town into that one. Except, leave color changing and all that sort of stuff you get in upstate New York.
Yes, in New York. Yeah, I definitely fell in love a little bit with Ithaca in a way that I didn't think I would.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also really lovely and charming and fantastic. Because I was like, yeah, okay.
Hmm.
But this one didn't go into wintertime. And then and
Yeah.
then one of the other books goes into wintertime, and I'm like, oh no, no, no wintertime, no thank you. But personal bias against winter. It has nothing to do with how well Adriana Herrera described Ithaca.
Same, same. My spouse is from Wisconsin and he's like, so we could just like buy a house in Wisconsin for half of what our house is currently worth. And I'm like, uh-huh. Winters for 6 months of the year. Snow on the ground. Do you see this? There's no fat on this. I can't keep myself warm.
We
That's
would
why I
spend the rest of the
usually
money
talk
in
in
the
that.
Patagonia gear required to keep you warm.
Exactly. I just walk around like what's her name who turns into a blueberry in Willy Wonka, just like
Or
padded
or
out.
or wait, Christmas Story where I can't put my arms down, right?
Mm. I haven't seen A Christmas Story.
Okay, I only have because it's my in-laws like tradition, holiday
Okay,
tradition, so they sat
got
me
it.
down and introduced me to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have seen it
Mm,
either. All right, I feel
okay,
like
excellent.
here where we
Yeah,
diverged into Christmas is where we should take a break.
exactly. Perfect. See you later. Okay, we're going to take an intermission right here. When we come back, we're going to break down our favorite moment from the book
And discuss our ratings and if this book made us want to get naked.
Please enjoy this message from one of our friends in the podcasting world.
I am 110% still chewing.
You didn't have to bring us back from break. You have all the control.
I
Okay,
know,
so
but
while
I'm done. I'm
keep
good. I'm
chewing,
good.
I'll do the intro. Okay.
Please.
All right. So we're back. We're talking about American Dreamer by Adriana Herrera. It's her debut novel we think in 2019, and since then she just churns them out like she's a fucking romance book factory, and I fucking love her for it. Just incredible. So let's talk about our favorite moment or most compelling moment in the book.
Okay. So this is for me, this moment is super early on, but it is just such a well-written external internal like it's such a good emotional grab for me as an audience member or as as a reader that I was like, I absolutely buy into their attraction to each other. Early on, they end up in a bar. Jude and Nesto end up in a bar together with a bunch of friends, and Jude is asked about his mobile library project that he is trying to pitch so that he can get funding for it. And he starts talking about this project, and he's been a very reserved person up until this moment. And now he gets really passionate about this thing that he's talking about. And Jude fully leans in. Like, it's not about flirting, it's not about just being attracted to this other man. He fully starts to believe in the success of this mobile library and asks questions that are like insightful and really leading it about it. And the fact that the two of them vibe on an intellectual level and connect about a work project, as a person whose personal life and professional life are so intertwined that it's kind of unhealthy, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, to like really loving not just the person outside of their job, but the person's passion inside of their job. And like that spark was that it was an intellectual spark, and I loved that that existed.
Mm-hmm. For me, um, as I mentioned, I had a lot of long pauses that made me fight with fake people. Well, not real people, but not actually their people. But it made me revisit who I was 15 years ago when I was in these really tense situations, familial situations, and helped me acknowledge and honor the journey of growth I've been on since then. And I've gotten it I've gotten to check in and evaluate the person I am now and the things I love about myself and about my life, and what I cut out of my life to be healthier, and to like check in on that, and to acknowledge the difficulty of that moment of, separating myself from toxicity, and just like the good vibes I've surrounded myself with since. I've hey, I'm pretty like life's pretty great. I don't know. It's I'm not the kind of person to do that. So I really appreciate this book for giving me that space.
Nice. Oh, that's great.
So it's not a specific thing. It's like a hooray, a fucking
Like a
hooray.
feel good everything. I feel good
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yep.
Okay. Hot take on this book. Yeah or nay?
Oh, absolutely. As I mentioned, the first two chapters are clunky, but like the rest of the book is incredible. The details we talked about, like her descriptions of the food and his reading chair surrounded by books, like the little details are so seamlessly leveled in. Like once she hits her stride, it's great. It's fantastic.
I will also say, absolutely yes. And separate shout out to the artist whose name I definitely didn't look up because that would just be too prepared for words. Who did the audiobook. He is so
Mm.
good. He has like his voice is now the Nesto voice in my head. And he
Oh.
does all of the books actually. So if you do books on audiobooks, then the same artist does the entire series, and he is so excellent and really brought the characters to life. And he has like a distinct voice for Nesto and Jude, and it's super fun.
Google says Sean Crisden.
Very
Oh,
likely,
my Google is listening. There you
very
go.
likely.
Sean Crisden.
But he did an excellent job. Very, very well done. I enjoyed his reading
Nice.
of it very well. Okay, let's talk about nakedness. Did this naked? Let's talk
Nakedness.
about nakedness. Did this book make you
It's
want to
hot.
get
Let's do
naked?
it.
I'm wearing overalls. It's going to be
Um,
a whole thing.
it's gonna take you 5 full minutes to get
I
out of
know,
your
right?
overalls. So yes, love is love in all of its forms and partnerships. Like this was a lovely affirmation of gay romance, of gay love. Like raise the roof. Let me awkwardly raise the roof, but like high tens is great. Is great. Yes.
I agree. It was really I fully agree. Sorry, what I was thinking of
Okay.
is that what I really liked about this is that there are a lot of romances about gay men who, or we've read a lot of romances about gay men who are just discovering that they are gay. So it's a coming out
Mm-hmm.
story or it's a first relationship and there's a certain amount of uncertainty. These two people have had other partners before. This is not their first sexual encounter. They are sure of what works for them and
Mm-hmm.
what doesn't. And they are good at directing that attention and that need and telling their partner what they need. And that
Mm-hmm.
was refreshing and excellent because it is not assumptive about the fact that all gay men just wait for their one and only. And I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that because
Yeah.
not everyone waits for their one and only.
We
Um,
know how you feel about fated mates.
go, yeah, look at our Instagram. If it isn't cleared yet, yeah, look at our Instagram and it
Thumbs
will tell
downs.
you everything you need to know. Thumbs down on Fated Mates. I thought that there were a lot of really cool sex positions. I listened to a podcast with Adriana Herrera and she told on the podcast that when she writes sex scenes, butt stuff is her favorite. So if there's a sex
All
scene,
right.
there will be butt stuff. And so this does not disappoint. In case you're into anal play, it is there's a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of it. It's very
Uh-huh.
descriptive. It's very
Yep.
good. Um
Yep.
it is not my personal thing, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really sexy to read it.
Yeah. Oh
So,
yeah.
yes, it made me want to get naked. No, it didn't make me want to reenact some of the stuff that they're doing, but I 110% was like, they're really hot for each other, and that's really hot to read. Exactly. And what you're illustrating right now, there's a scene where with two thumbs, and, and
Some
I
spreading. There's some butt spreading. Yeah.
and I read
Mm-hmm.
that scene. I was like, I do not know how this would work. Like, I cannot physically imagine this A, working, B, being pleasurable for me, but that doesn't mean that it isn't
Mm-hmm.
pleasurable for this character who's clearly
Mm-hmm.
really into it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna enjoy their joy. It's
Yeah.
very hot. It is very hot. It is very explicit. There
Mm-hmm.
are no questions left at the end of the scene as to who did
Nope.
whom and how. And I love
Excellent.
that.
Yeah. It's very good. So we have a couple of minutes. Do we want to try this new segment I thought up, or be like, nah, let's go?
I mean, yeah. I feel like there's shout
Okay,
outs. Yeah, I
great.
think shout outs
So
are required.
Excellent. So we're totally stealing this from the Peony, by the way. Listen to the Peony podcast. They're delightful. So they do recommendations at the end of their podcast. I'm going to say, if you liked the ideas that we talked about in this book, here are some recommendations similar to those ideas. So first one up is Books with Food Trucks. And I'm going to say Simmer Down by Sarah Smith, which is also a biracial story. Do you have any? I'm just springing this on you after all.
I know. And I kind of anticipated it 30 seconds ago and was like, have we read any other food trucks? Yikes.
Right.
I don't remember any more food trucks, but if I do, I'll bring it up in a different episode just randomly.
Excellent. Perfect. How about Foodie Romances? Now, I know you've got a couple of those in your back pocket.
So much. So Mangoes and Mistletoes by Adriana Herrera. Go to our YouTube. I gush about that short story forever. And then Battle Royale.
Lucy Parker.
Thank you, Lucy Parker. Kiss My Cupcake.
I'm gonna drop in
by Helena Hunting. Alexis Hall's Rosalie Bakes a Cake. So many. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna drop in Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors by Sonali Dev. This is a closed door, very slow burn romance.
What about the Accidentally Engaged? Because it's super foodie.
Sure.
So
foodie's an easy one. Lots of foodies.
Lots of foodie food. You just get hungry reading the book. It's a little problematic, but then you feel deliciously bready afterwards.
Absolutely. What's the one? Fudge Buckets had an orange cover, and it something. It had Indian food. Never mind. Okay, we'll bring it up later. Okay, other biracial romances. So there's Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert.
Yes.
How to Feel It Flirting by Denise Williams.
Well, actually, all of the Talia Hibberts, literally all of the Talia Hibberts, they are not necessarily a white person and a black person, but they are all racially diverse couples. They're yes. And then
I think you're right.
Quite a few of the Rebecca Weatherspoons as well.
Oh yeah, good call. Excellent call.
Yes.
And then hot male sex.
Okay, so this sex, Adriana Herrera sex, is a lot more sex than Casey McQuiston's Red, White, and Royal Blue. Red, White, and Royal Blue is it gets you in the door.
Explicit.
It gets you in the door, and by door I mean anal. But it thank you. This gets you there.
Back door.
It opens the door and then it puts a dildo inside and then it stays there for a while and then you get to the end of the chapter.
Excellent. That's there's no dildo play in this book. I think you're conflagrating some of the other books.
There is no dildo play in this book. Read the other books. There is so much dildo play. There are so many toys.
And on that note,
yeah, definitely. We're ending here. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye. So are you, dear audience human, gonna pick up this book now that you've heard our review? Let us know in the comments. Have a suggestion for another review? Slide on into our DMs.
If you like this adventure in books or updates on our upcoming projects, please follow, like, save, subscribe, rate, review us on Instagram at l.skyford, on Twitch at lskyford, and on Twitter at skyfordl. Phew. I'm Sky.
And I'm Ford. That's it for this episode. We will see you next time on Booklandia, where every book is a whole world to explore. And we're out.